September 11th was supposed to be my first day here at Dartmouth College. A week and a half before, I got engaged to my present wife in Martha's Vineyard, and I was living in Los Angeles. So after that, I flew back, actually, to Los Angeles and packed up, drove across the country, and I got here the evening of September 10th for my first morning. So that was a late night, so the next morning, I remember the alarm went off. I had a clock radio, and I was lying in bed, and I heard it was NPR News, and they were saying a plane had crashed into one of the towers. And listening to it, it sounded, the feeling I got was that it was like a Cessna, or a Piper Cub or something. And I remembered, years before, a bomber had flown into the Empire State Building. And I looked outside, it was sunny. And I thought, well, it must be a cloudy, foggy day or something. And I hit the snooze thing, I went right back to sleep. And eventually I woke up, went about my business, and it was like an hour later that I turned on the TV, and saw what was going on. And I called my folks. I think at that point, it must have been, I don't know how much time had passed, one of the towers had already fallen. And Brooke and I, my fiance, were watching the TV and saw the second tower fall. And it was almost so much information so fast. I remember we were standing up at the time, and we just kind of fell down, sat on the sofa as it was almost hard to believe, to comprehend so much had happened so fast. I can't remember if I went into work or not. I may have, and no one was here or something like that. Pretty much anybody I was supposed to meet with said, we'll meet some other time. And so that wasn't my first day at work. It was the next day. I remember later going into Dan and Witt's, this kind of journal store we have locally, to get something, and I saw, the newsstand, which was all the news of the day, but from yesterday, and it just seemed so normal and plain. And I thought, God, I wish, that world's gone. That, tomorrow the news is going to be different from now on, almost. I almost wanted to take a picture of it, because it was another world that had already passed. Well, even being here in Vermont, far away, we had nothing to do with the events of that day except having seen it. I remember a couple days later walking around Burlington with my mom, and a plane went over, and there was this sort of, you just kind of cringed a bit and looked up, like suddenly the sound of a plane was a scary thing. You felt very vulnerable, which I guess is what part of the goal of a terrorist attack is, to make you feel, terrorized and vulnerable, no matter where you are. Another weird, I had been in Martha's Vineyard. I'm Catholic, and our bishop, his brother, the bishop's angel's brother, was on one of the flights, and he had been vacationing in Martha's Vineyard with his family, got on the flight from Boston back to LA, which a week before was exactly what I had done. Left Martha's Vineyard, got on that flight from Boston, headed back to LA. And you think of, I felt like, gosh, that's close. It's not close. It was a week later. You think of people who might have been on the flight, the next flight. People didn't make the flight. People didn't go into work that day. Weird chances that happen. Somehow you just feel connected to it, I guess, even though you're really not.